Cool.
This is going to be the first podcast, the first video of Just Two Brothers.
It's just two brothers.
Just two brothers. Nothing else. It's just, it's a lot of things it could be, but it is just two brothers. So we're finding ourselves how many days into a Biden administration right now?
Oh,
What,
8 months.
How long are we? I don't want to give too definite of a timeline, but of where we are talking. But the long and short of it is we got an administration that decided that it was a good idea to pull abruptly out of a 20-year war and try to blame it on the past administration for setting up a deal that didn't exist in any capacity. It was actually just theory. And the theory was that the United States shouldn't have to continue to fund a war that has global implications. So fast forward to where we are with the Biden administration, and they say, "Hey, we're out. Forget the Americans and the people who were there to help us. We're just pulling out, and we're leaving all of our equipment behind, and all the people behind. And now, as it sits right now, Americans have been relying on the British and French government to try and get them out of there, and that's a poor situation. It's a poor show globally, and it really gives some potential advantages to some enemies. So that's where we are right now in today's world with the current events of the just horrible administration and the developments that at this point.
Yeah, man. It's really interesting that Joe himself decided to go against what both the Obama and the Trump administration both said, which was, let's not precipitously pull out of Afghanistan because we know that that's going to be a huge disaster. I mean, Donald Trump, there are interviews of him saying, if my initial inclination was to pull out of Afghanistan, and after really thinking about it, if I pull out of Afghanistan, it's going to be an unmitigated disaster. And Obama felt the same way, which makes like the feeling that Joe decided hey, I'm just going to pull out precipitously.
I don't think Joe made any decision. Joe just said, "Oh, that's what you want me to do? Oh yeah, ice cream." I mean, he didn't make the decision, but I mean, the decision was made. It was done in absolute horrible fashion. But mark my words, you heard it here first, people. They are going to spin this into the greatest move by any president ever. Is exactly what they're going to say. They're going to turn this around as he got us out of the war. He did everything that could have been done right. Yeah, there was some collateral damage, like, we just abandoned American citizens. And they are going to spin this. They're going to spin it with the help of the media. They're going to spin it every single way that they can. They're going to spin it in ways that we don't even realize something horrible could be spun. They're going to do that the way that the Democrat Party does it. And they're going to be allowed to do it because of the weak conservatives that we had. So in the upcoming midterms and the elections, the only hope is that people put this on blast, they play it over and over and over and over and over again, and don't let it get away. Because that's what the plan will be. They're already trying to turn the page on this right now.
It's no doubt that is the Biden administration plan. I mean, you can see him already doing it. He takes time and he goes to Camp David. He has to be literally dragged back to give a talk about it. And then he goes and immediately goes to Camp David right after that. I mean, we're talking immediately after Americans died. That's his initial reaction. I think it's not even a stretch of the imagination to say that, yes, the media and the White House in general is going to try and spin it as a victory. And really, they're just hoping that the American people forget about it. And to be honest,
that's a pretty good bet.
I think it's a pretty good bet.
I mean, it really is. I mean, people just forget, you get all this all this, everybody gets up in arms about stuff, but they seem to do it for a very short amount of time, and then it gets just to be another thing that just happened, and then, as time goes on, you'll just hear about how great the decision was and how he just performed under pressure and performed so flawlessly.
Oh man, he had the greatest back out of all time. Even though he ran the ship directly into the iceberg, you're going to see him say, or you're going to see the media say, man, the evacuation that we did was so good. I can already see it. I can already hear it. They haven't even said it yet, and I can already hear it.
You know what's happening in Kabul right now is Google's blowing up with how to pilot an Apache helicopter. I mean, that's what's going on there right now. How to repair Humvee. That's all. I mean, it's not funny. It's really not funny. But I mean, the fact is being left that kind of opportunity. I've also developed kind of a theory about this that if Russia was really on top of their game right now, I may have mentioned this to you before, that they could come in and look like the world heroes right now. They could come in, wipe the Taliban out, completely obliterate them, and how Russia does that, and just send everybody home. And they,
China could do the exact same thing.
Well, China could do the same thing, but I mean, you've seen in the news that they've formed an allegiance with the Taliban government.
Oh, what?
I know.
I'm shocked. Wait, you're telling me that China wants to take over the world's largest lithium mine that hasn't been used yet?
Well,
man.
I mean, you got a backstabber with a backstabber. How did that work in World War II between Russia and Germany? I mean, that's kind of the same. That allegiance doesn't really concern me so much as how we've just said. Everybody goes to the defense of, well, we just can't occupy a place forever. Can't occupy. Well, I mean, we're going to occupy it forever. Yeah. Actually, we are. I mean, that's what needs to happen. And the reason why is, do we still have troops in Germany? Do we still have troops on the border in North and South Korea? I mean, it's 80 years ago. Yeah, the answer is yes. Is it a global?
We have troops in over 100 countries.
Well, exactly. I mean, so why is it, we can't have people in Afghanistan forever? Well, you see what happens. I mean, and part of the thing is people have been, oh, well, man, how fast the troops folded. Look at how fast those people folded. Well, heck, that's their relatives and their cousins and their brothers. It's more logical to think that the people in the military in Afghanistan, that is the affront to the radical Islam. That they are going to, hey, we got a job in the military, but, when things get really bad, we'll just jump over here with the guys that we know. I mean, think about the reality of having an affront based on a holy war that is going to keep those people divided indefinitely. I mean, no one should be surprised when it collapsed at that rate. That shouldn't surprise anybody at all. I completely expected it.
Add on top that they knew that the Americans were pulling out. Why would they want to engage with the Taliban when they know that this is probably going to take more than just the Americans backing us? They're not going to defeat the entire Taliban within this one military combat. So you're talking about a long-term decision-making that, honestly, the Afghan military and the Afghan people are going to have to make. And it doesn't surprise me one bit when they turn and they say, you know what, we see this as a big decision for us, and we have to go with what we know is going to protect our families in the long run. We know that the Taliban is going to kill our family if we support the Americans. So it would be better for us to back out now, try and save face and save our families, because we know that the Taliban is going to be coming in, and the Americans aren't going to be there forever because they already said they're going to back out. And on top of that I really believe that there is a lot of corruption going on in the higher-ups of the Taliban, or not of the Taliban, but a lot of the higher-ups of the Afghan military. They were taking.
You said
bribes.
Afghan military. Of course there is.
Yes, the Afghan military was Exactly. They were taking high... Oh, I get what you're saying now. Yes, the Afghan military was taking bribes. Oh, you don't say.
Really? I find that very tough to believe. I mean, it just... My point, I guess, with the whole thing was no one should have been surprised at the speed at which they collapsed. No one should have. You knew the moment that there was any sort of realistic, we're on our own now, that was it. It was going to happen instantly. Instantly. And that's exactly what went down. So that should surprise nobody. No one should. You should expect that. I mean, that's what's going to happen.
I completely agree. I mean, the fact that both Obama and Trump knew this. They knew that if we were to do a precipitous pullout, that it was going to be an unmitigated disaster. And yet we have Joe deciding, hey, you know what? For whatever reason, I'm not going to get into conspiracies, but for whatever reason, I'm going to pull out. And he just does it. You know, really conjures to mind.
Let's get into conspiracies. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if I'm being real conspiratorial here, here's what I would say. I would say that if we really looked at Joe's relationship with China, okay, Joe has...
That's not a conspiracy, actually. That's...
you know what? Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, they would all have you think that it's a conspiracy, but it really isn't. Fuck you, YouTube. But outside of that... I mean, for real. Okay, Joe, it is common knowledge. Well, maybe not common to everyone, but it is well known that Hunter had been picking up bags of cash for, maybe not for Joe, but Hunter had been picking up bags of cash in China at the heads of different companies. We know this. I mean, it was the same thing that he was doing in the Middle East. He was picking up bags of cash, and you know, him holding 10% for the big guy. There is a
That's
very
Santa Claus.
Uncomfortable. There is a very uncomfortably close relationship between Joe and the Chinese government, and I don't think that this is any secret. And when you look at Afghanistan, who stands to benefit the most? China.
Yeah.
It's obvious China does. And, you know, they say follow the money. Well, in this case, if we were to follow the money, it would lead us to China. That's where it would lead us. And just the thought that both Obama and Trump both said if you pull out of Afghanistan, precipitously pull out of Afghanistan, it will be an unmitigated disaster. And Joe goes against that. It just really makes me question his motives. Now, he may say that he has all of his generals agreed with him. Well, you know what? Everybody agreed on the Challenger space flight.
That isn't much of a conspiracy.
Seriously, I mean,
that isn't much of a conspiracy, dude. That's just like you just like.
I know it isn't much of a conspiracy, but everybody would like you to believe that Joe thought that he was going to just back out just for, you know, because he thought it was the best reason, because he thought that the American people wanted to back out, and a lot of us did. And I get not wanting to be in Afghanistan forever.
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand that. I mean, but it goes back to what we said earlier. I mean, you know, the argument is always, well, can we just indefinitely occupy an area? And the answer is yes. I mean, like you said, what's going to happen here? It's going to collapse. China's going to benefit if, you know, I mean, they made that allegiance public early. They're willing to recognize the Taliban as an official government, which, you know, surprisingly, the left is too. I mean, they're very happy to, oh, yeah, they're the people that we like. They do all sorts of peaceful stuff. You know, they want to go down that same road. But at the end of the day, he abandoned a bunch of Americans, a bunch of military, a bunch of people who helped us through these 20 years of war. And, you know, 13 soldiers were killed. And Nancy Pelosi, in all of her grand wisdom, refuses to allow the names of those soldiers to be read in the chamber. But I do remember at some point them doing an homage to George Floyd. which was perfectly acceptable. But, our American soldiers that were dead at the hands of the Democrats, that's recognizing those people doesn't mean anything. So I have another conspiracy for you. It's called an agenda. And that was also a very poor conspiracy. That I could have done a better job. I could have done a better job inventing that conspiracy. But that was pretty much just black and white. I mean, that's flat out what happened. And the funny thing is they've gotten to where they don't want to try and spin things anymore. They just want to make them disappear.
Yeah. Well, when you have the media entirely on your side and them running cover for you, yeah, I could completely understand your thought that, hey, we don't need to spin things anymore. We can just make this disappear, and we're going to make it disappear by honestly just not talking about it anymore. Which is, I think, where kind of Nancy Pelosi and her complete idea of not talking about the soldiers that died. I think that's exactly where that's coming from. I think that they just don't want us to focus on it. They just want to move on. Hence why she would rather focus on the January 6th debacle. Even though there's the Capitol Police have already concluded what went wrong, and it was a security breach.
It was an unarmed insurgency. I can't even. I wanted to say that with a straight face. Like, I was really trying to just say that with a straight face. Like, be serious. Just like the jokester himself. I got a joke for you. Don Lemon. That's my joke. That's how that joke ends. Well, one of the questions I kind of had about all of the he's the definition of a tool bag. One of the things that they wanted to talk about is we have 200 people left, between 100 and 200. I really question the legitimacy of that number as a general assumption. How do they think at any point that there's 100 people left or 200 people left? There seems to be no definite recon. I mean, the military's staying at the airport, from what I understand. How do they think that? I mean, there's been no allocation of anything, to know who's where or what. They seem to have a pretty good idea of how many aircraft and Humvees they've left to the Taliban, but it just seems that the people are just kind of out there, and they're saying, hey, you have to get here by the last day in August, which we're past that now. As dictated by the terrorists themselves, and we completely crumbled to them. I really question that.
No,
number.
we're allies with the Taliban now.
I guess so. I mean, let's have at it.
We're allies with the Taliban
they
now.
They seem trustworthy, I mean, why wouldn't you trust them?
Right. Well, I guess the first question that, I would ask is, when you say 100 people are left, what do you mean?
Like, what kind of people? Or like what?
I mean, are you talking about American citizens, or are you talking about green card holders? What are you talking about?
Yeah, they're talking about American citizens, from what I understand.
Okay, so green card holders don't count.
I would suspect that they're in that same group.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure that we're on the correct definition of what a green card holder is, because I could see that being a very convenient way to fudge your numbers.
Then why would there only be 100 though? I guess that's where I'm going with it is how is there only 100 people?
Well, it would certainly be easier to lower that number if you change the definition of what a green card holder was.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm just saying.
It just reeks of suspicion to me. We have 100 people. I mean.
In no doubt that the whole thing is covered in mystery. I mean, we're taking our information from the Taliban. Yeah. Oh, you don't say that we don't exactly know what's going on in there.
What's wrong with that? I mean, they're really trustworthy people. Did you see the thing where they were upset about some of the aircraft and Humvees being damaged? Did you see that? It's like,
no, I didn't.
Oh yeah. So some how they hold pressers now because they have their own presidential office. So they're holding this presser, right? And the guys in the background are holding U.S. military weapons. Weird. And
Sweet.
they're holding this presser, and this guy's mad because, well, the Americans should have left this equipment in better shape, is what he says.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, like wow. I just wow. Like
Well, when you give him the keys to the palace and he gets in the palace and says, "Man, your furniture ain't as nice as I thought it was." I mean, I guess what did you think? You gave him the keys to the palace.
Well, yeah. We gave him the keys to the palace and then the weaponry to throw over everybody else around him if they choose. I mean,
we have single-handedly made the Taliban the strongest
I would say it's ever been
terrorist force. That has ever been. If you look at, really think about it. Did we really accomplish our mission in Afghanistan? True question. Yes, we were there to get rid of Al-Qaeda. Okay, kind of achieved. Yes, okay, we got rid of Osama bin Laden. Okay, achieved. But simultaneously, we gave the Taliban the strongest military that they've ever had. On top of that, we gave them a very potential relationship with China. Did we really accomplish our mission? I guess this really depends on your definition of what the mission was in Afghanistan. And to me, we might have left it in a worse place than we found it.
Well, with the handling of it, we're at a worse place because they're going to be more confident. How confident are you that nothing's going to happen on September 11th?
I'm going to be honest. I really didn't even think about the chance that we could see a terrorist attack reoccurring that soon.
Hey, it's a 20-year anniversary. They got more power and confidence than ever. In their mind, they defeated the world's greatest superpower.
You're right.
So
without nukes and without F-15s.
If only the American people could be so fortunate.
What?
oh, wow. The insinuation of that. Oh, man. The fact of the matter is when he said that is he will be defeated with the pen. If there's any government that's going to be defeated in the United States internally, the realistic defeat will come from the pen. It will come from the pen and the judge's bench. That's where it'll come from.
Yep.
So it's just like controlling a currency. I mean it's deeper than a physical war.
You're talking about non-Bitcoin.
That I guess the other thing that happened there is did you see that they were flying that body around from the helicopter?
I did see that.
So I've heard conflicting stories. I heard a story that wasn't an actual person. I find that very hard to believe.
Regardless if it was a person or not, the real story is that, we didn't think that they would have the technology or have the capacity to fly a helicopter. They learned how to fly it within a week.
That was never a doubt in my mind. Yeah, I heard some people say some stuff about that.
Of course, you knew that they were going to either going to fly in Pakistan or China or Iran, and somebody was going to give them the capacity to fly a helicopter.
Oh yeah. The other thing is you got to remember is those people aren't afraid to die. They'll have some cowboy jump in there and, hey, let's take this thing for a rip. I mean, that's what they're going to do. They'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I mean, they also have the money now that they can just hire pilots. I mean, straight up, they can hire pilots.
Well, yeah. I mean, I assume when the American government has been bribing them, I assume that's how we have came to this agreement with the Taliban. I assume that's just us giving them money.
About the Afghani pilots that we trained. I mean, it's pretty easy to get them to do it.
Without a doubt, another very true thing. I mean,
although the Afghan military is kind of a little bit funny. I'll see if I can post that. I'll post that video in here.
Yep.
There's a slightly comical video of the Afghan military attempting to do jumping jacks. That is very, very funny. It really shows the depth of their abilities, and these people should be taken very seriously. They are definitely not people who will surrender at the first sign of fear.
Oh man. I know that's a little bit older of a video, but dude.
It's just so good. I just watched it again the other day here. I was like, honestly, I was trying to find a flaw in the video. Like that it's fake. Like I had it set up like there's some guy in the corner laughing. But there is not some guy in the corner laughing. The only guy laughing was me. And I was just oh my gosh.
God.
And at what point did they think that these guys were going to be able to fend off jihadis? It's insanity.
It's hilarious. Let's just be honest. It's funny. I mean, the fact that these guys have never known what a jumping jack is, is
well. I mean, you don't need that to be able to use large artillery and I mean, I understand that there's a disconnect there, but how funny it is. Man, it's funny and sad at the same time. It's like one of them. What do they call it? The train wreck scenario, where you're seeing something happen that's awful, but you can't stop looking at it. It's like that. It's one of those things. Like it's one of the greatest lacks of coordination I've ever seen in my life. Like this guy's hands and the one guy's just jumping up and down, and the one guy falls. Like, how do you fall doing that? I mean, you're military. You're supposed to be defending your great nation in Afghanistan. You're using our dollars to do so.
Quick question. Is that at all a reflection of our military?
Oh, gosh. Why did you say that?
I mean, for real.
They only had 20 years worth of training, man. I mean, it's if you only got 20 years to get a military together, that might be all you get.
Did you also check out the video of the Taliban making new use of the Capitol weight room?
Oh gosh, I did see that. I did see that. I am going to go out on a limb and say that those people had never seen that equipment before in their life. Also, I'm also going to say that isn't there something about the West being infidels and everything about their existence being as such? And wouldn't that put them then in the same boat by participating in that? Kind of like an Amish person driving a car? I'm just going to go, I mean, I may be wrong. I'm completely guessing. But it just, there's a comparison there that I made in my mind that, I mean, you got to remember these are holy warriors. And their holy war is against, well, many things. But right now it's against the West and the United States, particularly.
I mean, come on now. Let's be honest. It's always been against the West.
Well, no, I mean it's among more than that. I mean, you had an epic Shiite and Sunni battle when Saddam Hussein was around and could facilitate that to keep them distracted from destroying the West. But I mean, utilizing Western equipment. So then, at the same time, is using the American military equipment then like a religious sin? I mean, it was created by infidels. Are we going to get demonetized by talking about this?
Dude, I'm pretty positive we're already demonetized. It took us half an episode to get there.
Hey, let's just change the name of the show to Demonetized. Just demonetized. Yeah, demonetized.
Just demonetized. Just demonetized.
I mean, hey, just name the show what you do best.
It's two brothers getting demonetized. It's really, that's all it is.
You know what? That brings up a good point. What's happening to our freedom of speech? I mean, think about that. I mean, granted, it is a little bit different dynamic because it's on a platform that's owned by a different company, and companies do have some rights. It's really a something that I fight with internally. I see the rights of a corporation to have content and do as they please, as they should be able to do. But you get into this real muddy water of, well, it's the public that's utilizing that platform, and now you have two sides of freedom that are at a conflict. So that's really something that I struggle with, because I mean, that I'm really pro business, and businesses should be allowed to flourish, and you should be allowed to make your own decisions. But you also have an amendment to the Constitution that allows you to say as you please. Unfortunately, and fortunately, people have been able to have a platform where they can actually earn an income with these opinions, and it creates a dynamic that I think very, very few people realized was even possible up until the recent years.
Couldn't agree more. A lot of the Republican and Libertarian part of the country, we've always been super pro free market, and it has been a recent development where the left in general has kind of taken that and used it against us in a way that I don't think we've ever seen happen before. We always thought that, the free market was going to take care of itself. And this, we're always have been against government, or large government for the most part. But I guess I never really thought personally what would happen if the government end around their restrictions, meaning our rights, through the free market.
That's a really incredible point that you make there. That actually is a point that I think that a lot of people haven't even thought about. That in the absolute literal sense of the term, the free market has been used against us, and it isn't truly a free market. Once you manipulate it, it's not a free market. But the free market is perceived by capitalist Americans, you're right, has been used as a weapon against its own people, and especially as it pertains to freedom of speech. Now I understand that there's arguments for the false information thing, and
I don't buy a single one of those arguments. I don't buy a single one. Here's why. Even if I were to lie to you and tell you that the sky is red, the best way to combat the sky is red is telling you that the sky is actually blue. I mean, the best way to combat false information is with true information. And if you're going to tell me that Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter are the arbiters of what is all true, I just don't buy that. I've never bought that. No one person is ever the arbiter of what is all true. And I was under the impression that they were just platforms for speech. They were not there to police speech. They were not there to tell what speech is right and what speech is wrong. And if they were living truly up to that thought, that they're just there to give you a platform to tell you for people to speak, then yeah, I mean, if people want to lie, that's fine. You have your own capacity to make your own decisions and decipher what is true and what is false.
Well, I think one of the big issues that people have is deciphering that has gotten to be very, very difficult. I mean, have you seen some of the deepfake videos and different things like that? I mean, yeah, it has gotten to be very difficult. However, to your point, we don't really know anymore what a truly open platform is. The one truly open platform that we had is gone. They wiped it off the face of the earth. And it was going very successful for them. So, I mean, it's a very bizarre dynamic that we live in right now on not really your freedom of speech. They're gonna turn those words into acceptable speech. And honestly, man, I think we're just seeing the beginning of that. I think there's a big silence or push for silence that's going to be coming in the coming years. And it's going to be people, not even so much personalities. You have your greats. You have the speaker of truth, Rush himself, who fought that on a level in the beginning that no one had fought. But I mean, there's still other great speakers out there. And I think that is actually going to trickle down to, and we've seen it trickle down to just your average citizen now. I mean, I know people who've been banned and shadow banned on different platforms for a host of different reasons, but it's typically something that's, not acceptable to the left primarily. They don't want to hear resistance to what they deem acceptable and what you should accept and think and feel, and especially what you should say. There's been actually on this subject, AOC of all her of all the people out there with great wisdom, just a true visionary and deep thinker and thought.
I heard you're not supposed to call her AOC anymore.
Why? Is that an acronym for something bad? Please be something bad.
No. She said it's offensive to call her AOC now. So you're supposed to call her the esteemed Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm just making sure that you're up to date.
Are you making this up?
No, I'm actually not. This is serious.
Oh, really? I thought you were hitting me with the Babylon Bee there. No,
I'm serious.
Oh, really?
She says it was a little while back, so maybe she's changed her mind by now. Whatever gets her most votes.
How do you change something you don't have? There's just... She is the embodiment of a political satire cartoon. Like throughout all of American history, there was tons of great political satire cartoons, and then out of the ashes came Ocasio-Cortez, the embodiment of all of the political satire cartoons. The disbelief that someone can be this absent-minded and continue to get elected, whether legitimately or not. I mean, it's just, she's like the anti-superhero, But truthfully, in her just genius and visionary, just man, I appreciate what she brings. She actually brought up that you should be able to punish people for spreading a narrative that doesn't agree with them. Now, that was a while back as well, but I remember very distinctly when she came up with that in all of her infinite wisdom. From where did she go to school? I remember she was touting that for a while, Boston University or something like that. I'll tell you what, if I was the dean of students there, I'd have gotten a hold of her and told her to just shut her mouth. Like don't advertise when you go to school.
Oh, come on now! If you were the dean of students, you'd be left of Lenin. Come on, man!
Oh, come on! They aren't all like that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Yeah, they are. Well, no. Hillsdale College isn't like that.
But fair enough. Okay,
but,
and
we don't want to burn up an episode here. I got a lot of things to say about these colleges.
And one professor at a college in middle America also isn't like that. Whatever.
He got shadow banned from his own job.
Not yet, thankfully. Let's hope they don't see it.
I mean, that's a Democrat dream. I mean, we don't like what you say. You're gone. Like 1984 with the thought police. I mean, that they watch that, and there's actually what we should do. We should cut up the Hunger Games and 1984. And I'm sure there's a couple other movies we could put in there and make like a mashup of all and just call it Democrat dreams. Like all of the things. Maybe parts of Schindler's List maybe could go in there. But I mean, there's just, whenever I see like massive government overreach, I'm just like, oh wow, yeah, the Democrats they'd love to have that like that. That's just wow. I mean, it puts me in a mindset to understand very disturbing things. To just be like, yeah, just to destroy people's freedom Well, especially Americans. That'd be great to destroy their freedom. Like, I just, you know, and right or wrong, I guess, I'm right. Yeah, I'm right. It's just two brothers.
It's just two brothers. It's just two brothers. You know, maybe this could be an episode entirely on its own. But it's funny when you start talking about the wanting to crush the First Amendment and whatnot in America, because the First Amendment in America is the only place that it exists. Regardless, if you go to Canada,
that's just because nobody's tried socialism the right way. Man, I wasn't going to smile after I said
censorship the right way.
Nobody's tried total government control the correct way yet.
Yeah, it's never been tried in the last, 2,000 something years, except, the Federalist Papers has obviously said as much. But seriously, you wouldn't realize how many kids in my era, my age, really do think that that a First Amendment or a Second Amendment or just the rights that we take for granted in America just aren't as widespread as they think they are. There are way too many people my age who think, man, the rights that I take, the freedoms that I take for granted in America, they're widespread. And it's just not true. When you go and look at Canada and the things that are happening in Australia and New Zealand and England and Germany, Italy, France, you name it, they just don't have the rights that we have. And that is mainly preserved by our Constitution and the way that America was developed. And this, as I said, it could probably be an episode all on its own, but it's the truth.
Well, as a point to that, like you were saying that, a lot of people your age, my age, I mean, I think that you can not have that be just an age demographic. You could have that be just across the board. Most Americans don't realize, number one, the rights that they truly do have. They don't really understand what's in, the Constitution. I'll be honest, I can't recite word for word in order everything that's in there myself. And I pay attention to that kind of thing. They believe that rights as a human across the board, as a global whole, is equally dispersed. A lot of people believe that, and through this insane belief that somehow it's more repressive in the United States, is really just astronomically crazy to me to think, for people to think that there's people that think that way, and I really think that it's because of a lack of education. And to take that maybe a step further, I think it's a deliberate lack of education. I think that there's a lack of education that's deliberately being delivered from our schools, and that's subject for another day, a big subject. And
an entirely another episode.
Oh yeah, it's just there.
Multiple episodes. Come on.
Well, yeah, I mean the depth of the sewer is very deep, and it's the lack of education, and I don't come to that as my own invention. I mean, that was touted by Martin Luther King Jr. That was touted by many other human rights advocates throughout history. That the lack of education is what brings people down, what keeps people in poverty, and in our case, what makes people believe that the freedoms that they enjoy are universally enjoyed by the rest of the world, which is so far from the truth. And it's that deliberate lack of education that has done that.
Without a doubt, I completely agree. I can see it in the people that I talk with. Why do you think that there are so many people who think that Canada is such a great place?
It's because
they. Oh yeah.
Get what you pay for.
Exactly. But they also, seriously, so many of them don't realize that they don't have a constitution. They don't have a First Amendment. They don't have a Second Amendment. They don't have a Bill of Rights that we all take for granted. They don't have the basic liberties and freedoms that we take for granted here in the United States. They don't have it. They bent the knee to the king while we didn't.
They made their decision in 1776 and they can live with it.
Exactly. Fuck you, Canada.
I told some Canadian friends of mine one time that they made that decision in 1776 and they can live with it because they were upset about this. They increased their gun control up there, and they didn't find it nearly as funny as I did. Like, I thought it was pretty funny, but they didn't think it was funny at all. They're actually a little upset at me for saying it, but I mean, I'm always concerned about how upset I make people. It's something I think about all the time.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Well, hey, before we wrap it up here, let's just talk about a little thing I came across. We were talking about some American capitalism and how we're kind of in a weird dynamic right now, and I just want to talk about I found a thing that people are a group, I guess it's a community of people they're calling themselves overemployed. And what's really interesting about it is, especially with how there's so much remote work from home, kind of, it's really tech-based kind of things, that you have people that are working 2 full-time jobs from home, and neither one of the companies know this. Like, it's really, the website's really cool. I went through it a few times. It's cool because they talk about setting a low bar from the beginning, so it's easy to achieve, like preparing your employer for your mediocrity. I'm serious. That's one of the things they talk about, and I'll tell you what, it's really it's really interesting that they talk about, hey, let's go in there and talk about how you're gonna set the bar low. Then they give you like some pointers on communicate in such a way that makes it appear that you're really working hard on certain projects and whatnot, and how to communicate that it's really cool. And the reason why I'm a little torn between it, because it's like open deceit. It's like you have this job, you don't really like it. It's kind of just a job. And you're not getting raises like you think you should be getting, because you might be a mediocre employee. But instead of upping your game, why don't you just fleece them and go get another job with lower expectations? Because at a minimum, you're going to give yourself a 50 to 80% raise. Like that's the premise of the website. And it's really awesome and really awful. Like it's this blend of awesome awfulness, I don't know.
My initial impressions when I read it was like, dang, that's actually kind of a smart idea. And honestly, I was torn because I really do think it might be a free market answer to the layoffs that are currently happening. That was my initial impression. Is if these big companies are going to be laying people off, then why wouldn't you just double dip, grab 2 jobs, and then give one half your attention. Worst comes to worst, you get fired and you get unemployment from the other. Think about that. That was my initial impression, which and when I thought about it, it just really made me think, man, it would be. It's going to, in the end, make it better for employers to reinforce their commitment to their employees.
Well, it's really going to make them have to up the ante when it comes to benefits and work from home and flexibility.
Exactly.
I mean, because that's what's spawning that. And I kind of thought of a thing too is, okay, so you get this employee that's given 40% at work, but it might be better than somebody that's given 10%. I've worked with these people. I've worked with people who give 0%. I've that are just there as long as they can continue to collect a paycheck, and that is all. Like they have no aspirations to to achieve anything.
Hey man, if you can get what the paycheck ain't gonna change.
One of the things you kind of insulate yourself from potential layoffs. So let's say you have this job, you're putting in 30-40%, and your main job downsizes and you get let go, because you're one of the mediocre employees. But you still got that other job, so then maybe you can up the ante there a little bit and you actually, try. But I just got to read one of the lines from this. It says, one of the keys of success while working 2 remote jobs is communications and setting low expectations with your boss. The strategy is to set the workload low in at least one of the 2 jobs so you can navigate spikes in workload. So they refer to one job as the keeper job. So that's like the main job, maybe the one that you got better benefits with, or maybe the first job. But then, you kind of want to scope out this second job where you're the bottom of the rung guy, or close to. And it just, man, it's such a great idea. I mean, like you said, the free market has given this. They have said, you know what? We're going to let people work from home, and then we're going to say, hey, since we let you work from home, we don't need to give you a raise. You're getting all this extra time at home. Well, no, that isn't how this works. I'm so torn, but because it seems so shady, it's so shady. It's like,
hey, come on now. The free market does not reward morals. Remove your morality, and you'll be able to make more money. Come on now. All you do is have to say, hey, I'm going to fleece my other employer out of a bunch of money, and I'm just going to work about 10%, make 100% of the money. And when he lets me go, I'm just not going to put it on my resume, and I'm going to take unemployment from it anyway.
Oh yeah, I mean, there is no downside for the employee in this situation. I don't see one other than you'll have some extra work to do. But then again, let's say you increase your income by 50% and increase your workload by 30%. I mean, that's a win. That's a hard win. Like that's a big one. So
that's a win. Exactly.
You gotta. One of the there's one of the lines in here is. It talks about you want to be able to meet expectations. You want to be seen as somebody that meets expectations, right? But you're gonna lay the foundation of having those expectations be low right from the beginning. And it says, while in reality, your aim is to do the minimum and get by. Don't get fired while secretly hoping to get laid off. Now, one of my questions is, I don't know the details of how this works exactly, but if you have full-time employment, I don't think you can get unemployment from a second full-time job.
Oh, that's a good point. That didn't even cross my mind for a second, and it should have, because you absolutely generally can't.
Yeah, if it's a bigger company, you'll get some sort of severance that'll go with it, right? And then what the big benefit would be is then you wouldn't say that you got fired, right? You had this other job and I just got laid off. I mean, it doesn't say, yeah, I slacked off so bad that I got like that wouldn't be a thing. You wouldn't have to worry about that then. Like that's I think what they're getting at there is to just get laid off so then it goes away.
One of my other questions that I had coming about this was, it says it's a community of people that are all doing the same thing. So, what kind of community is this? Are they all giving themselves each other about ways that they can slack off better? Or are they all, trying to help kind of each other with, their work? They, all post all of their collective work all on one, and they just, kind of hop on, and you, do somebody else's work for a second, even though you're giving all the wrong answers, or it might be just completely made up, but it would help you submit something. So that was kind of my question while I was looking through that, is what exactly is the community aspect to this?
Well, there's actually a lot of there's a ton of content, and it actually like I'm reading some of the articles right now. It's like manage conflicting meetings with 2 remote jobs. Managing LinkedIn with multiple remote jobs. How to set low expectations at your 2 remote jobs. Overlapping jobs to try 2 full-time remote jobs. It actually brought up a really interesting one. I think it's the most recent one. No, it's not. But it says the race for remote work after the pandemic. And that's something I've been talking about, actually. I was talking about that before this, for a few years before the pandemic hit. You may remember that there's a very large employer that we both know that they have a huge office building. I mean, a monster, 100 and I think the office building part's 110,000 square feet or something like that. It's ridiculous. And I'd been saying for a while that I think that that's just a ridiculous waste of money, because you're paying for this building, you're paying to maintain this building, you're paying for heat and cooling and power, and for people to go into this building and sit at a desk and talk to people on their headset when you could get all of that out of the way and just let them stay home. And the argument I always got from people was, well, how are you going to know if they're doing their job? But you'll notice that now that's not a concern. Now it's like, hey, we know if they're doing their job, because guess what? Nothing happens if they don't do their job. So now, I don't want to say that I was right, but I was just right. I mean, if your job is to talk to people on the phone, right? Why do you need to go into a building that this company has to own that's pretty arbitrary, so you can have teams of people and you can have one person say, oh yeah, they're all here on the phone. Yeah, I see them. Yeah, oh, there's that guy. Yeah, he's on the phone too. I mean, why? It hasn't made sense to me for a number of years. It really hasn't. And then the pandemic hit, and I was like, I'm going to be right. I know it's going to happen here. They're going to say, hey, all you people go home. And then after that, they were like, man, it didn't really change anything. Like, we still got the same amount of work done. When in reality, the people, for the most part, were able to do the same amount of work in less time.
And then they're going to be having their 10% job that's paying them 50% of their income on the other side.
It's just, the premise is so smart. Like, I
really do think it's a free market answer.
Well, yeah, but I mean, part of it too is there's a lot of companies that for a long time just made a distinct decision that we're just not going to be competitive in the job market, and we'll take whatever we can get. And then what we're going to do is we're going to break our jobs down into little tiny segments so anybody can do them, because then they're just really, really basic. So you don't have to put out money for skilled labor that's motivated, intelligent, and have to pay all the benefits and have to attract people. Where now it's almost gotten to the point that if you want a baseline employee that's just going to do anything, that's going to do more than 0%, you got to give them benefits. You got to pay at the top of the scale. You got to give them work at home options. You got to do that just to get anybody, not to get good people. So that labor shift happened in a way that I think a lot of companies just didn't think that it would ever happen.
I was going to say I didn't think they saw it coming either. And I honestly, I think in the end, it's going to be better for everyone.
Oh, I've thought that for a while. I really have,
Yep.
I really don't see... I don't see... There is downfalls, I think, from purely work-at-home jobs. I do. I think there's some, but I really think that the benefits radically outweigh the downfalls.
Hey, dude.
And, but I'm just talking about mainly about one. Like having one, like a regular person having one job.
One of the other fun parts of this is that... they even helped you tailor your resume so you could get your job while setting low expectations when it came to this.
Yeah.
Because that's the big deal. It's right. It's like, oh, okay, well, can I get this guy, or, well, not guy, can I get this employer to really think, oh man, this is going to be a good employee? And entirely in the back of your mind, you're like, I am fleecing you out of a bunch of money. Thanks, man.
They're fleecing, but they're not. Because remember that
right.
if you have a person with really good skills and they're going to apply themselves at 30% or 40%, is it better than a person that's going to just not even do that? I mean, because companies have that. They have people that, you know, and I think that also there's another article in there that says they talk about employee loyalty. And I think that's something that's been waning in the United States for quite a while. It's just people just aren't, you know, well, it used to be, hey, you're going to get into this job. I'm going to work here for 30 years. I'm going to retire. They're going to give me a gold watch and a pension. And that's going to be the end. And that was a motivation for people to stay for so long. And those days are long gone. They were gone with my generation, let alone yours. I mean,
gosh. Do you know how much loyalty my generation has?
Oh,
this
yeah.
Like, it's zero.
Negative loyalty. No, it's less than zero. It's less than zero. You can't even be have loyalty to like anything, like a sports team or a beverage, or I mean, you know, it's anything. A pair of shoes. Like you can't have any loyalty to like basic human needs. I mean, there's a generation of people who can't have loyalty to meat. You know, like it's gotten to where it's just like whatever is the new thing, whatever's new, and you got a lineup of 1,000 things, and whatever is the newest thing, if whatever that was just built 30 seconds ago, that's what they're most loyal to. That's it. Like and it doesn't matter if you want to talk about like electronics or food or cars or anything, whatever that is the newest. That's what they're loyal to until the next thing is a little bit newer than that. Then that's going to be the next thing they're loyal to. I mean, that word almost is completely meaningless in an entire generation of people. By the way, they're the same people who can't drive manual transmissions.
Well, luckily I ain't one of those. So. No, for real, my friend just borrowed me a car so I could learn how to drive it, you know, whatever.
Well, congratulations. You just recently became a man.
So, what was I before that?
I don't know. How did you identify? It's all about what you say is reality.
Hey.
That wasn't meant to be
That
funny.
hurts my feelings.
So my generation doesn't understand what that word means. We definitely do not understand what that word means. And as my generation has gotten to be over 40, the sound of that word almost doesn't register.
Oh, we had a long talk about it. Anyone under the age of 30 knows.
Knows what?
Oh, you know, the feeling talk. That's what it is. We're all talking about our feelings. We care about it more than our facts. Feelings don't care about your facts.
No, I don't care about your feelings. Oh, jeez. Oh. All right. Well, let's wrap this up till the next episode of Just Two Brothers. That's all we have. It's Just Two Brothers. Thanks for watching.
It's two brothers. We're gonna have, you know, the plane. It's gonna crash into the home, and then the two brothers are gonna hop on a truck and they're gonna drive. And you better believe
it's just two brothers. We don't want to play. We're two brothers that don't play royalties.
It's just two brothers.
It's just two brothers.